Hey guys, so I'm in a bit of a rush because I'm running late, like always, but I wanted to film this now because I won't have my makeup on later on, so I'm just gonna film it now and hopefully I'll get through and I won't be late to wherever I'm going. So today I wanted to read 1-star reviews of recent 5-star books I've read. These aren't my all-time favorites, like favorite of all time, this is what I recommend, but like these are my like in the last year 5-star favorites. So the ones that are like the freshest in my mind, and they're the like handful that I could think of right now. And yeah, I just wanted to read some 1-star reviews because I think I saw someone do this recently. It's been popular on BookTube for a while, but yeah, I saw someone recently do it and it kind of sprung my mind because I haven't been reading as much lately, so I don't really have a wrap up for you guys. So I'm just gonna do this and then just finish reading what I was reading for future videos. I forgot to add before I start this video, this might seem a little bit obvious because I'm reading 1-star reviews or just reviews in general for books that I liked, and I'll be talking about them in detail, so there are probably going to be spoilers in all. I know there's different things that people consider spoilers, like plot twists or plot whatever, like there's different things that people consider spoilers, so just assume that every book here is going to get spoiled to some extent, and if you don't like that, obviously don't watch, but I didn't give that disclaimer before. Let's just get into it. We have My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which is a 5-star read from me, but it is a 3.64 on Goodreads, and it's a very controversial one. People love it or hate it. It's a bit Marmitey. So it's a novel about a young woman's efforts to duck the ills of the world by embarking on an extended hibernation with the help of one of the worst psychiatrists in the annals of literature and the battery of medicines she prescribes. Our narrator should be happy, shouldn't she? She's young, thin, pretty, a recent Columbia graduate, works an easy job at a hip art gallery, lives in an apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, paid for like the rest of her needs by her inheritance, but there's a dark and vacuous hole in her heart, and it isn't just the loss of her parents or the way her Wall Street boyfriend treats her or her sadomasochistic relationship with her best friend Reva. I called her Reva. I can't remember what I read it as in my head. It's the year 2000 in a city glitter with wealth and possibility. What could be so terribly wrong? My Year of Rest and Relaxation is a powerful answer to that question. So through the story of a year spent under the influence of truly mad combinations of drugs designed to heal our heroine from her alienation from this world, Moshfegh shows us how reasonable, even necessary alienation can be. Both tender and blackly funny, merciless and compassionate, it is a showcase for the gifts of one of our major writers working at the height of her powers. And I loved it. I love an unlikable character. I love an unlikable main character, to be fair, like the one where you're in her point of view, rather than having like a main character deal with a really unlikable character. That annoys me more than just a straight up unlikable main character. Like I want awful, but I most enjoy an unlikable female character, like female main character, because I think female characters get so much slack if you're not perfect. It's kind of the reason why like people recently, there's been this like conversation about why don't we have more complex female characters in all sorts of media, whether it be, you know, TV series, movies, books, and it's because people can't handle them. People can't handle a complex character because they couldn't even handle Rory from Gilmore Girls. The amount of think pieces about how awful Rory was. She was a regular teenage girl, a regular young adult who, just like everyone else, struggled through different aspects of life, whether it be career, romance, family life, friendships, mess ups, etc., etc. So if we can't, as a society, handle Rory Gilmore, what makes you think we can handle a complex female character? We can't. To my core, to my being, to my soul, I will defend an unlikable female main character because I think we need more of them. We have so many good, like, male unlikable main characters and they're accepted. I mean, American Psycho as a book exists for a reason, and so does the movie. We love it, we accept it, we understand it. For some reason we don't have the same understanding for the unlikable female main character, and I love reading those books. I love being in the perspective of just an awful person and just see like, oh, what's that like for a day? So we have the first review, and bear in mind when I read these reviews, no attack to these people. I hate books other people love, and people will hate books that I love, and vice versa, and I think this is just funny, but I feel no kind of way about this at all. Someone said, I'm not going to read the whole review, I'm just going to give you spark notes of the review because it's quite long, it could be a book in itself. So TLDR, I hated this book. My Year of Relaxation could have been good. I was expecting something like You Too Can Have a Body Like Mine, which I do want to read because clearly it's similar vibe. A weird, disturbing book about a young woman disassociating from modern society. Instead, I got a 300-page vapid that seems unreasonably proud of itself. If you're here looking for recommendations, I'd give this one a pass and read The Kleeman instead. So they see things like the characters are so unlikable. It's pretty clear at this point that I don't think writing unlikable characters for the sake of being able to is very compelling. It seems conceited on the part of the author and a bit like I'm being invited in on a mean-spirited joke. And I think this is where me and this person can really like disagree, and hence why my 5-star and their 1-star. I think if you can write a really awful main character, that's a good thing. And in my mind, it doesn't make you like conceited or just like an out, like an easy out. Oh, I'll just write like an awful character. That's quirky and cute. But they also say, I'm not sure that taking a deep dive into depressed people are self-centered and horrible is a helpful or kind thing to do, but it's at least not wholly inaccurate. And the thing is, once again, it's like, just because you're depressed doesn't mean you're exempt from being criticized if it makes you really self-centered. And can depression make you really self-centered and selfish? Yeah, at times it definitely can. You are in deep survival mode just to try and get through the day, and so it can make you a flawed person. It doesn't make you a bad person, it can make you a flawed person. I think it's very interesting to be able to talk about all those things, right? Yes, we feel bad for someone because they're depressed, but yes, they can also be making someone else's life really bad because they're depressed, because of the way it manifests itself. And I think it's just a great, I don't know, I just think the whole book just is like a perfect example of you can be a victim but also be kind of mean to people and make other people victims too. Because I think sometimes there is this like, you are the victim, and if you're the victim you can't be anything else, and if you are this then you can't be anything else. And I think books like this, where you have a really unlikable female protagonist, allow you to explore the idea that you can be an imperfect victim. You can be a victim of circumstance, but while also having that manifest in really negative ways at other people. And then they are a victim also, and now you're the perpetrator. I think it's really interesting, and I think it's a good conversation to have. So then someone said this was so boring and absolutely no one was likable. The point was right there, and we just I assumed I'd feel some sort of kindred spirit with the depressed woman who decided to sleep her life away, but there was simply no meaning to anything that happened. She was horrible to her best friend, and that had no meaning. She took a treasure trove of pills every day, and that had no meaning. I mean, the best friend thing, the way I took it was more of a, when you are in that state, people wanting to take care of you is more annoying and frustrating than it is helpful, because you already feel so out of yourself that someone taking pity on you, like her friend was kind of taking pity on her a lot of the time and like wanting to, you know, cheer her up. And like, I think all of that made sense. Like, the reason why she was doing those things made sense, and the fact that she stayed in a toxic relationship made sense, and the fact that she did take a bunch of medicines that she didn't need made sense. The fact that she stuck with a psychiatrist who wasn't actually trying to help her because she knew she didn't really in that moment want to be helped, that made sense to me. I think all of it made sense to me, but all of those can also be flaws to someone else, and so it's basically the reason why I'm giving it a 5-star and someone else is giving it a 1-star, right? Someone said, I'll tell you all about it later. I'm currently shocked that people read this and had a positive feeling. What exactly did they like? Then we have Normal People by Sally Rooney. I give it a 5. It's a 3.81. So we have Connell and Marianne pretend to not know each other. He's popular and well-adjusted, star of the school soccer team, while she is lonely, proud, and intensely private. When Connell comes to pick his mother up from the housekeeping job at Marianne's house, a strange and indelible connection grows between the two teenagers. One they are determined to conceal. A year later, they're both studying at Trinity College in Dublin. Marianne has found her feet in a new social world, while Connell hangs at the sidelines, shy and uncertain. So we have a bit of a switch up. Throughout their lives in college, Marianne and Connell circle one another, straying towards other people and possibilities, but always magnetically, irresistibly drawn back together. Then, as she veers into self-destruction, he begins to search for meaning elsewhere. Each must confront how far they are willing to go to save the other. Sally Rooney brings her brilliant psychological acuity and perfectly spare prose to a story that explores the subtleties of class, the electricity of first love, and the complex entanglements of family and friendships. And I agree. I loved this book. I think it gave me slight Tumblr vibes, but it also just gave me the idea of like, this isn't a perfect relationship. It's a very full of miscommunication. If you hate miscommunication, don't read this one. Full of miscommunication, full of just like toxicity, but also you can feel the love through the page. I don't know. I liked it. Once again, both of them were quite unlikable at times. They were both flawed incredibly. They were imperfect people, aka flawed. And I just love that. I think he was great. Anyway, someone said, quite simply, this book didn't fit me. I really have no interest in reading about 18 to 20-something-year-old college kids on and off sexual relationships where they seem to only exist in their own little complex bubble, and this book felt like a bubble. It's described as exquisite love story, which I honestly found nothing exquisite or no love in this one. So they said, perhaps this is more suited for a younger audience where they connect with the college scene, or for readers who like complex relationship stories, but for me, this was a struggle from start to finish. And I mean, I can completely get this review. I completely understand, because I've read some books where I was like, I am just not interested. This is not in my interest zone, and I get it. I checked 3 times to see if there was something wrong with my Kindle copy, only to find out that leaving out quotation marks was intentional. Absolutely unforgivable, 1 star. Yeah, there's no quotation marks in this one, so you just have to kind of figure it out when they're speaking. Thank God it's finally over. This is one of the worst books ever written and ever read. Sorry, not sorry. Seriously, is this Sally Rooney's idea about love and relationships? I don't think so. I don't think when an author writes a book, mainly when it's a fiction, that it has to be what they think and believe or even live by. Like, I don't think Mosh Feg, writing My Year of Rest and Relaxation, agreed with anything really that character was doing. I think it's just an exploration of a different life, a different way of being. Sometimes I think when an author keeps on writing something, you can kind of attribute it to what that author thinks or believes, but I think in some ways authors are allowed to write stories completely detached from what they believe and think, mainly when it's a work of fiction. Obviously that's kind of a perfect place to explore those ideas. The writing was so confusing, and not just the writing but the characters were question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. I don't know even what word can describe them. Marion and Connell's relationship was so weird and disgusting. They were so childish and always dating other people when it comes to their relationship. No, they were never in one, but it was just friends with benefits when it was obvious to both of them that they were in love. I mean, I think that's literally the whole point of the story. DNF at 13%. From what I've read, I can confidently say Sally Rooney is not like other authors because she really said, quotation marks, who is she, and called it a day. Giving this 1 star because it put me in a slump. FML. Fair enough. Some people really had an issue with those quotation marks. Then we have The Right Move by Liz Tomford. I gave it a 5. It's a 4.43. I really struggled. I had to like find the 1 stars, dig for them. So we have Ryan, who is a captain of the Devils Chicago NBA team, and the last thing I needed this year was for Indy, my sister's best friend, to move into my apartment. She's messy, emotional, and way too tempting, but when the team's general manager vocalizes blatant disapproval of my promotion to captain, referring to me as an unapproachable lone wolf with no work-life balance, I can't think of a better way to convince him otherwise than pretending to date my outgoing roommate. And then Indy basically got cheated on by her boyfriend and needs a place to stay if she wants to live in Chicago, where she has her whole career and her best friend, Ryan's sister from the first book. And so it's a fake dating, close proximity, sunshine grumpy kind of book. And it was also a slow burn. I loved it. I read it all in one go. So this was like my favorite. I want to reread it, and I've literally read it like 3 months ago. So that speaks volumes. Someone said more like The Wrong Move. DNF at 55%. DNF at 11%. Why is the internet lying to me about how good this book is? It's like a teenager wrote it. DNF 30%. Slow burn my ass. I really tried with this series and author, but it doesn't work for me. It's way too long for no reason, and romance boring, full of miscommunication. I really enjoyed the beginning of the book, but I quickly became very bored. It was just way too long, without any good reasons. I almost DNF'd it twice. Also, Ryan had to grovel way too much twice without super obvious reasons. It was a no from me. Why this book has this high of a rating will remain one of the biggest mysteries of Goodreads. I'm not sure it would be possible to make it more cliche and eye-roll inducing. I'm sure there are worse things, but I, luckily, haven't read them, so here's 1 star because 0 unfortunately isn't an option. I do not trust anyone who likes The Right Move over Mile High. I expected so much from this book after reading Mile High, but it was such a disappointment. I didn't like the characters, the story was boring and repetitive, the way their trauma was handled and described was rather careless, and there wasn't much to like in this book except the few times Ryan did cute stuff. I'm not a big fan of grumpy ex-Sunshine, and this book was the epitome of why I hate it. Indy was annoying. Her toxic positivity agenda and invasive personality really pissed me off. From the very start, you see her uprooting Ryan's living style in his life without his permission. I'm all for helping people heal and bringing a change in their life, but there are boundaries for a reason. She didn't respect his boundaries, and as an introvert reading this book, it really pissed me off. When Ryan got injured, Indy made it about herself. Again, Indy inviting her entire team over without having a conversation with him is a violation of not only his boundaries, but trust. Coming to Ryan, he was nice. There's nothing I really disliked about him, but by the end, he became kind of annoying too. There wasn't anything special about him and made me go, oh wow, I want him. In the end, I didn't connect with the story of the characters. After 60%, I wanted to DNF, but I forced myself through it. They are the kind of couple that break up after the epilogue or in the long run. Mile High was so good, but this was nothing as compared. Can't believe I disliked a fake dating book. There's a lot here. And then we have Every Summer After, which is my last one. I gave it a 5 star. It's a 4.22, and there is a cheating trope in this book. That's probably where a lot of the 1-star reviews come from. Percy and Sam, basically it jumps between current day when they are not together anymore, and there seems to have been some kind of conflict, and then you're going back to the chapters in the past when they first met as kids, and Every Summer After when their relationship built, and then you kind of find out at the end of the book what happened, and then there's the cheating trope. 1.5 stars. Love and Other Words rip off with a bonus trope, cheating. Yeah, that's how I'd market this. Hi, Amy Berkeley. 0.5 added because the dry humping titty sucking scene in his car was hot. Hate, the chapters felt draggy. Didn't even bother to compare this to Love and Other Words, but it was just too similar that I risked a stroke from constantly cringing. The cheating drama, like, the dialogues were cute. Not sure about the characters though. Lol, Sam being a tidy freak and a hot nerd. My kryptonite. 1 star. Christina Lauren should sue for copyright infringement. I don't think I ever despised a main character more. How can a book be so good and sweet until the last 10% and then everything turns into a car crash of epic proportions? I'm super disappointed and upset because I loved the childhood friendship between the hero and heroine, and while I expected something big as the fallout, I didn't expect that. I was utterly shocked and it made me sick to my stomach. The ending is super rushed and it doesn't feel realistic because of that. I'm so disappointed. Once again, I think in here the characters were quite flawed, and that was an issue. There is obviously a cheating thing, which once again, I don't agree with cheating, but I don't really mind it in fictional books because it's a fiction, it's not how I live my life. And so I think a lot of the 1 stars came from, 1, it being apparently very similar to a Christina Lauren book, but 2, because of the cheating trope. So there's that. And then we have the last one, which is Funny Story by Emily Henry, which actually just came out and it became my favorite Emily Henry book of all time. I love it so much. I chuckled multiple times. It was a funny story to me. A lot of people don't think it was very funny. I think it was funny. But yeah, I have it right here, and it's my favorite Emily Henry book as of yet. It's about Daphne and Miles, and Daphne was cheated on by her fiance like a day before their wedding with his best friend who was dating Miles, and now Miles and Daphne move in together because they have nowhere else to live, and she's giving herself like a year before she has to move out because she wants to like start a new life somewhere else. And then her and Miles start a fake dating, close proximity type of relationship, and it's really good. I loved it. Someone said, I'm all for recycling, but does she have to keep writing the same book every year? Boring, repetitive, bland characters, a main character that moans every time she eats something. Is this some kind of weird new sex thing? Was I supposed to be turned on? Sparks were definitely flying, but that's just because I considered setting myself and the book on fire multiple times. I was actually going to give this 2 stars, but the more I think about it, the more I hate it. Also, I'm in a very bad mood. Lol. Someone said, I don't want to talk about it, so I won't. I saw someone say she's the Taylor Swift of authors, derogatory, and could not agree more. If this lady has no haters, I am dead. Got my hands on an arc, so time to find out. If I read it now though, I fear that will be the end of reading for me forever. It's already hanging on by a thread, barely. Based on the summary, it is already a 1 star. Some authors just don't have writer's block like they used to. The main character spends the entire book complaining about how she built her entire life around her ex-fiance and then proceeds to build her entire life around another man. These characters need personality development training and self-help books, not some love story. This was a bad book. With the ones that have a much higher rating, because the 1 stars were harder to find, they're also not very detailed a lot of the time. I think it's just more of a vibe thing, so they're harder to respond to. Like I think with the more love or hate books like Normal People and My Year of Rest and Relaxation, it's easier to kind of bounce back and kind of discuss the 1 star rating, whereas when a book is so beloved, the 1 stars tend to be a little bit more just like, I just didn't like it. And so it's hard to kind of talk back to that because yeah, you're allowed to do that. I know I'm sorry, but 1.75 star. This book just is actually so bad. Like, love Emily Henry, honestly, but this book is not good at all. My eyes literally put out at about halfway through the book, so it's DNF'd. Maybe I'll pick it up again in the future and try to reread it. I wanted so badly to like this book, and honestly, I went into it skeptical from the start, so that may very well be half of my problem. And that is basically it. I'm running late. Subscribe to the bell icon for engagement. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.